One of the things I like to focus on with astrology is how we see trauma show up in your chart, how you might manifest that trauma, how you process it, where you avoid it, where you might hold shame, where you might project it. We can see all of this in the chart. So I'm going to show you my chart. I have complex PTSD. There's been many things that have happened in my life, and I'm going to show you where this shows up and how we might see this, and also what it might look like, a little sneak preview if you booked a reading focused on this. Okay, so hey, this is me. I've blocked off my birth information, of course, because we don't need to be sharing that. But this is my birth chart right here. So if you're new to astrology, this is what a birth chart looks like. Earth is the center of the chart. So everything is relative to where we are, okay? And this is based on where all of the planets, where the horizon, where everything was the moment I was born and the location I was born, okay? So you can see I've got planets all around here. There's a few places I have nothing going on. And we're going to look at some specific placements when it comes to how trauma may have manifested. And before I do this breakdown, I'm going to preface, I'm not here to attack anyone who may have been involved in my trauma. I am just explaining how this has happened and where we see it in the chart. So one of the first things I always look at when we are starting any chart is I want to look at the chart ruler. So to do that, we need your birth time, and we're looking for this line here, which is the ascendant or the rising sign. Mine's in Cancer. So we want to look at the planet that rules Cancer. That happens to be the moon. This is going to tell us the pinnacle of the chart, what our powerhouse or our final sort of boss of the chart is. So the moon is down here. It's in my 4th house. It's in Virgo at 24 degrees. I'm really lucky. My chart ruler is in its home house. Okay, the 4th house is ruled by Cancer. And when we click on it, is really positively aspected. So that really works in my favor when we are trying to process the trauma that might come up in the chart. The second thing specifically of what I want to look at is this line here, the Imam Coeli or the IC. Okay, this is going to tell us a lot about the foundation, the roots of your life, your early childhood, the energy you may have come into, what you might have experienced, potentially what your mother was holding while you were in utero. The moon can also be tied to that, so I'm going to come back to that. So having it here in Virgo, this shows me immediately there was probably some health issues that happened when you were younger. This also shows me that you may have had a highly critical upbringing where everything had to be perfect. How people saw you and saw your family was very important to your parents or whoever raised you. So there was a very big thing on image. You probably have a big heart and want to help, but you may not have understood how to do that as well. And there may, depending on how this is aspected, there may have been sort of a squashing of that. But reputation in the eyes of other people is really going to be where some trauma probably came in, a lot of criticism, maybe even some gaslighting. That type of energy is going to come in with a Virgo Imam Coeli. Every sign, this will play out a little bit differently, and how it's aspected, the degree it is as well, is going to affect it. Mine's at 12 degrees. It's a Pisces degree. Okay, so then you're getting hypersensitivity coming in with that as well. You're getting intuitive energy. So you probably, like, I knew things I shouldn't have known. I understood things and I felt things I shouldn't necessarily have logically been able to do so. So having a 12 degree, I absorbed every single thing around me. And that was all very true for me. There was some health issues when I was younger. I've had health issues continue throughout my life. There was a lot of criticism, a lot of like, Jody, be quiet. Jody, do this. No, you've got to do this. You can't do that because people will think this. So that energy was quite prevalent. So let's go back to the moon. Now, like I said, the moon is my chart ruler, but your chart ruler, depending on your rising sign, will be different. But the moon represents your mother in your chart, okay? So depending again on how it's aspected, depending on the sign, the house, all of that. Okay, so I have my moon in Virgo as well. So double whammy with all of that Imam Coeli moon energy. And so this, when I see this in a chart, I see a moon in Virgo. The first thing I'm going to ask is, was your mother very critical? Okay. Did you have a lot of health issues, or when your mother was not well, did you feel unwell? Or when she was stressed, did you feel that way? What was she going through when you were in utero? Was there a lot of anxiety? Was there health issues? That type of thing. That's all going to come up here. Now it's in the 4th house, okay? Having the moon here in the 4th house tells me that at some point there may have been a disruption in the family. And it's true. My parents separated when I was 7, okay? So that energy is coming in too. It's also 24 degrees. Again, it's a Pisces degree. Same sort of theme as the Imam Coeli coming in with this. With the father, you want to look at Saturn. Saturn's here in my chart, okay? Saturn is retrograde in Scorpio in my 5th house. If you're an astrologer, you might go, whoa, yeah. So Saturn, like I said, represents the father. When it's retrograde, there's always like abuse here, okay? There's a lot of neglect often that comes with this. There may be SA, especially with that Scorpio energy, okay? Because Scorpio can represent that. And Scorpio is really on the dark shadow side, very obsessive, very domineering. This is the way it is or else, okay? And that was the energy I grew up in. And you tend to internalize things when you have a retrograde, okay? And I did definitely internalize things. So how Saturn is placed is going to tell us a lot about your relationship with your father. And again, not good or bad. There was probably some good things too, but this is what's prevalent when coming out, especially when it's like 5th house. 5th house is the house of children, also the house of creativity. With Scorpio, it may have been, no, you can't do that. I wanted to be creative. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be an actor, a singer. I did all of that. No, you can't do anything with that, was always what I was told. Also, house of children, there may have been a lot of SA or abuse or things like that in your childhood. Whether or not it was by your father, it would have been known or in an environment your father controlled, which is true. And then another placement we're always going to look at is Chiron, which is right here in my chart. It's in the 12th house, Gemini, 12 degrees. I have a lot of 12 and 24 degree planets. Okay. Having Chiron here, Chiron's the wounded healer, and the house that it's in is going to tell us where you hold the most wounds or how those wounds were expressed. It's also how you're going to turn those wounds into power. Having it in the 12th house, there's a lot of unseen wounds. There may have been things that happened that nobody knew about, which is true for me. There may have been a lot of gaslighting as well with the Gemini energy, not wanting the truth to come out, people not seeing the truth or not believing and saying, no, that didn't happen, or no, you're wrong. So that energy really has come out in my chart, and turning Chiron from wounds to power is the whole purpose of Chiron. And so now I have taken my trauma, and this is now what I do, is I help other people through theirs. And I have made it my life to understand trauma and help be a guide through all of this. So these are some of the main placements, and this is a very condensed reading of what we might look at when we're looking at trauma and trauma patterns. There's so much more in depth we can go into, but that shows you a little bit about how I can see all the things that actually played out in my life right there in my chart. So if you want to book a reading and you want to work with me so we can help to conquer and see and also just validate, please reach out. I would absolutely love to hold space for you.